Hello and welcome. I'm Honeysuckle, bringing you the player updates for Episode 1 of the Minecraft Hardcore Challenge. We have several new and returning players this month, as well as our regulars returning for this fun challenge. And this month we find out that our uncle has died and left us a mansion in the woods. If we want to claim the deed, we have to kick out those pesky squatters. There's bound to be lots of excitement, so let's get started. We begin with Outfoxed. He stayed near spawn and started a wheat farm by a nearby pond and gathered some wood. At night he dug into a hidey hole to set up a small base and ran back for more wood before dashing back underground to safety. He turned some logs into charcoal to make torches to light up the farm, and then made stone tools to begin mining for resources. He gave us a very nice treat of singing a snippet of a song to show solidarity to Dragonfeather's self-imposed challenge of singing every episode this month. Great job, Outfoxed. You have a nice voice. He ends the episode the next morning as he pops out of his hidey hole to be confronted by a ton of burning mobs that chase him back down. Next we have John Fowl 92. He starts out gathering red and brown mushrooms to make mushroom stew for easy food, grabs a few logs, makes a boat, and hops in the river to head for the coordinates. He collects some sugar cane along the way before abandoning the boat to sprint along the treetops to the mansion, where he tackles some zombie with a dirt block before luring them into the sun. Then he makes a little hidey hole to finish one off with a wooden bowl. Then he decides that gathering more wood to make proper tools and weapons would be a good idea. He digs down in the dark to find iron before finally finding coal to light up the way. He quickly makes some iron tools and makes his way down to diamond level. With a new shield at the ready, he's finding redstone and more iron to smelt up to end the episode. Next we have DJ Paul TG. He begins by gathering red mushrooms and heading straight for the coordinates, finding some brown mushrooms and running again for a way before realizing it was the wrong direction and turning around. He gathers some wood to craft some mushroom stew before heading off again. When he finally arrives, he finds that it's a bit more of a fixer-upper than he was expecting. You'll have to check his episode to see what I mean there. It's a very interesting mansion. He decides to dig out a little hidey hole to get set up for the night, mining down for iron and other resources. Next we have Grandma's Gone Gaming. She begins by getting her bearings on which way to head for the coordinates, and then decides on gathering mushrooms for food and chop down a few trees for wood. She stopped for a couple more large brown mushrooms, as they weren't being very generous with their drops. Then as night fell, she continued on her way over the treetops. She finally decides to take a rest stop by hollowing out a tree and making a hidey hole in the leaves to get some food and tools crafted up. And then we have Dragonfeathers. Now, she has her self-imposed challenge of singing throughout the entire video, every episode this month. So she gathers her mushrooms and wood to get started, then she heads toward the coordinates, stopping along the way to make wooden tools and bowls. She finds some exposed coal in a cliff to collect, and then she decides to keep moving along until nightfall to dig in for safety. Then she realizes she needs more wood, but doesn't want to risk the night monsters to get more. After working in the dark for a while, she risks a quick run outside to grab a log to turn into sticks for torches, and a couple of stone tools to keep mining. She finds a few pieces of iron to end the episode. Next we have Pine Leaf Needles. He starts off grabbing some wood and explaining his interpretation of the challenge, which is to get the mansion ready for his uncle to throw a Christmas party. He collects some mushrooms and more wood, then finds a small cave to claim for the night. He turns some wood into charcoal for torches, digs down and finds a cave system to explore, finding iron and coal before heading back up to end the episode. Next we have the duo of Max Ryder and Scottie. They start with a song, then punch wood and gather mushrooms before traveling across the treetops toward the mansion. As night fell, the fearless leader decided traveling by swimming in the river was a great idea, until skeletons forced them underground in a hurry. They looked for iron and other resources while discussing strategy for tackling the mansion, so it will be interesting to see how they decide to do it. Next we have Original Jr. He's finally back in the MHC, and you can tell it's been a while, because he starts off by chasing down some cows and pigs. After making some wooden tools, he hops in a boat for a ways, then travels over land, heading toward the coordinates. Along the way, he suddenly remembers the passive mobs rule and tosses out the meat and leather from his inventory, and decides to gather seeds and mushrooms instead. Then he digs down underground in the dark, hoping to come across some coal for torches, which he does eventually find after some iron which he smelts up to use in an iron pick. Then he continues mining down for resources, finding more iron and coal before coming across a cave system. He decides to explore that at a later time and heads back up to celebrate a successful first day, only to be surprised by a creepy creeper. Next we have Lorelei. She gets off to a great start with wooden tools being quickly made to help gathering wood go easier. She also grabs mushrooms for an easy food source before heading off through the forest where she comes upon a ravine with exposed coal and iron. Here she breaks an important rule of Minecraft and digs straight down, falling into the ravine as the ground disappears beneath her feet. Luckily, she survives the fall and begins collecting those precious resources. Then she digs in to spend the night at the bottom of the ravine. She spends the rest of the night mining down to diamond level and collecting more iron, coal, and even some gold. Next we have Dark Age Man. He begins by picking some flowers before gathering wood, possibly already thinking ahead on decorating the mansion he's inherited. Then he comes across a ravine to head down into after some iron, but takes a misstep and falls halfway down toward the bottom. From the ledge he lands on, he spots a zombie at the bottom, eagerly awaiting another misstep. He manages to get safely to the bottom of the ravine, where a skelly almost gets the best of him, but he rallies and gets his revenge on both of them. Now we have Tim Obert, also known as Captain Hook 5150. He starts out gathering wood and mushrooms, makes some wooden tools, then gets his bearings and heads off through the forest toward the mansion. After traveling all day, he finally arrives just as night falls. He peeks in a window and almost gets blown up by a creeper, then breaks the window and goes inside. Is it breaking and entering if you own it? Once inside the house, he blocks up the chicken room and then cautiously sets out to explore the rest of the house. He knocks down a few walls and checks out a few rooms before turning a corner and spotting a vindicator. He decides to head back to his starting corner in the hallway and makes a game plan for the next day. And now we come to Dadcraft73 with his Loy XP and 2 piggies. The trio starts out wondering if the rich uncle is real. Maybe he's a scam. Maybe it's some kind of a trap waiting for them. While they discuss this, they gather basic resources and then head towards the mansion. But they do get split up along the way, and Sloys beats the other two to the mansion, where he traps a vindicator in a boat and then gets chased back out onto the roof by another one. They end the episode finally joining back up on the treetops as the sun rises. Next we have JavaDad. Now he heads for the mansion with the intention of gathering wood and setting up base once he gets there. He does gather some red and brown mushrooms before starting off again, finding pumpkins along the way. Once he reaches the mansion, he cuts down several trees and sets up base on the edge of the water across the way from the big house. He finds iron almost immediately as he starts his mine going down, finding more iron and coal after just a couple more steps. Next we have Bakerbelle Games. She starts off by getting her bearings and figuring out which direction to head, then gathers some wood and starts traveling. She finds a cave along the way with plenty of exposed coal and iron. She continues on her way, deciding to travel across the treetops for safety until night falls. She digs down to mine for resources, being in no hurry to get to the mansion on the first day. She comes across a cave system to explore, where she finds those exciting, beautiful blue rocks, also known as diamonds. Next we have the duo of 2 mere mortals. They begin by collecting wood and discussing strategy. They gather mushrooms while lamenting the loss of bacon, because of course we can't kill passive mobs in the MHC. They set up a small base area at the edge of the forest and dig down at night, finding coal and iron. Quillin has a close call while mining coal by coming close to falling through a hole into a cave where a creeper is waiting and watching below. Luckily, he catches himself before falling. Next we have Clan Halfdude. He is a new player this month as he decides to join the challenge. He begins with checking the coordinates he needs to travel to and then grabbing some wood to make his starter tools. Next on his agenda is food, which he gets by knocking down a couple of the large mushrooms. He travels along, getting distracted in a few places but getting quickly back on track and reaches the mansion before nightfall. He finds a small cave to take shelter in and sets up a small base camp. He explores the cave to find several pieces of iron which he smelts up to turn into armor. And then we have Mack Mania. He gathers wood to make basic tools and sets off through the forest. He gathers a few mushrooms along the way and some exposed coal in a cliffside and cobble to upgrade his tools to stone. He does manage to make it to the mansion by nightfall, where he takes a breather on the treetops before attempting to approach the building. He tests possible entrances to the house before finally jumping onto the roof. He peeks in a few windows until he finds a vacant room, which he then proceeds to claim by knocking a hole in the wall and blocking off the door. Next we have MP Plays, another new player this month. He reviews the standard rules and begins by gathering wood to make a few basic tools, then starts a wheat farm and explores some caves to find iron and coal. He sets up a small base in a cave to spend the night mining for resources. But after getting a scare from a zombie dropping in to visit, he gets the hint that he is not welcome there, and he takes off during the night toward the mansion. Now this is a huge risk without a shield, as a baby zombie, skeleton, spider, and a pair of creepers do their best to end his challenge. But he manages to fight or flight and makes it back to his wheat farm by the end of the episode, low on health. So stay tuned to see if he survives his second day. Next we have Wandering Nerd. He starts off quickly getting wood and mushrooms and makes some mushroom stew, then hurries along toward the provided coordinates of the mansion. As night draws near, he finds a likely-looking spot to dig in for the night and starts gathering resources. He's left in the dark until he can find coal, until he decides to smelt some iron, which lights up the area for a short while until he comes across a ravine. He heads back to the furnace to make a shield, then heads back to check out the ravine, where he finally finds some coal and some iron. Returning for our newest MHC challenge, we have Bad Senator, getting off to a great start grabbing some wood and digging down for cobble to quickly get stone tools to make it faster collecting more wood. He grabs some mushrooms, both brown and red, and makes some mushroom stew. Then he heads off through the forest to find the mansion. He tackles a skeleton along the way and arrives within sight of the mansion as it gets dark. He sets up a small treehouse base and then digs underground to mine what resources he can find overnight. And last but certainly not least, we have a returning player, RSM Alec, if I pronounced that correctly. He starts out his episode role-playing about his dead uncle, reading him a letter telling him about his inheritance. He collects some wood and mushrooms before beginning his journey to the mansion left to him, reminiscing about his late uncle, while he gathers his basic supplies. To prove his worth to his uncle, he takes on an Enderman that he finds in the forest. He finds a cave with exposed coal and iron and drops down to face a couple of zombies and a skeleton. So there you have it. That's everyone who has posted their first video so far. If I missed someone, mispronounced your name, or left something out, just leave me a comment below and I'll correct it in my next update. As always, there are links in the description to all the channels I've mentioned, as well as a link to the standard rules video for the MHC, the announcement video for this month's challenge that has all the important details you'll need if you want to join us and play along. Also, check out the website. It contains all this information in one handy place, maintained by JavaDad. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!